We had no idea a pandemic was coming, but the bus had left the station. We'd signed a lease. Product had been ordered. We were renovating that space. Here's COVID. We had a ready-to-open store that sat there unopened for 10 weeks. That's so crazy.
This is Jeff Starks, proprietor and co-founder of Maffrey's Good Goods in Ivanhoe Village. Jeff spent years as a leader at Walt Disney World, where he would learn the art of storytelling, visual presentation, and guest experience. Unfortunately, his Disney career ended sooner than he expected. But Jeff wasn't going to settle for early retirement. In early 2020, he and his partner Matt spent months prepping the opening of their retail store, but the pandemic struck. Having signed a long-term lease and investing everything he had, Jeff had no choice but to figure out how to keep the doors open when no one was knocking.
We didn't have time to focus on fear. We knew we couldn't fail no matter what we were doing.
Drawing on his Disney experience, Jeff focused on supporting his community and delivering an exceptional guest experience, which led to doubling in size in just his first year. But there can't be a good story without some bad days. And Jeff shares how he kept the lights on in our series, Start From Scratch. Welcome to Start From Scratch. What you're about to hear is the audio experience version of our actual video episode, which you can find on the BrandCrumbs YouTube channel, where you can experience the story in its original edited format. You'll be hearing mostly the raw audio from our film shoot, which means you might notice some behind-the-scenes moments, like crew directions, interruptions, and maybe a phone ringing in the background. Enjoy. If you had to start from scratch tomorrow, what would you do? What's the first 3 steps you would take?
If I had to start Maffrey's over, the first 3 things I would do is I would make sure that there is plenty of parking around my building and that our shop has fluid access to traffic. That is paramount. The second thing I would do is I would probably, even at my age, brush up on social media and really make sure that you understand your demographic and make sure that your content on social media is focused in that direction. The third thing I would do is I would probably do my homework on what local makers are in our area and build relationships with them so that we can support our community, give shelf space to local makers who maybe can't do a brick and mortar, and get into that business a little bit quicker than we did initially.
What's the most memorable piece of advice that you didn't follow, and why?
Really, it was a statement that was made by Sarah at Good Crowd. She's the owner of another boutique here in Orlando. When we were together, we were talking about how we all sort of have our own lanes and how we are all very different, but very similar. And she said to the group one night, she said, it's always community over competition. And I think that's what sets a small business apart, that if you can get in your mind that there is enough business for everybody, nobody's here to put anybody out of business, and that if your motivation and your business model includes just doing the right thing for the community, people will connect with you and the business will come. So if you have an opportunity to get in on a pop-up for a local maker, or you can get in on talking to someone who wants to start a small business, or you get in on helping other people, the competition becomes smaller and smaller and smaller because you're in it together.
What was the statement you said?
Community over competition.
Got it. What was the most memorable piece of advice that you didn't take? Someone gave you a piece of advice, you're like, no. And then it turned out for the best because you followed your gut. There's got to be something that just crossed your mind.
The piece of advice that I did not take was I was approached about opening up out in the attractions area. We definitely would have gotten a lot of foot traffic and the audience would have been much broader. I knew that our business did not belong out there. Our business belongs in a community, in a neighborhood. So I did not take that piece of advice. And we are much better for it.
Nice. I want to raise this.
Raise it?
Yeah. Give me some legs.
Yeah, we were asked to go to Flamingo Crossing.
Oh, yeah. How did that turn out?
Well, I was very polite and said, I really appreciate that. That's really kind, but hell no. It's just they will never get their talons in this business. Can you even imagine?
You're like right there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you would not have, it wouldn't be Maffrey.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all.
You all right?
Yeah. Sometimes these lights start to bother my eyes, especially these fluorescent lights.
Can I have you scooch a little bit to this way?
Yeah.
There we go. What's one lesson that you learned from your time at Disney that you still apply today?
The importance of storytelling. Our store tells a story by the products we sell. Our 5 values, U.S. made, women-owned, socially good, eco-friendly, and the local makers we support. There's a story in there to be told, and Disney really helped me learn how to tell a good story, and so it's an easy way to connect with our patrons.
You said values. Not many small business startups think of values from the beginning, and I feel like you had the values before the doors even opened. Why was that important to you, and how did you even develop them? Because I'm sure there's people everywhere that don't even think about it. They just want to, how do I make $1, and how can I, keep it going every day?
When we decided to open up this business, we knew there was a lot of competition. And while we believe in community over competition, you still have to be able to get in your lane and do it well. And so as we were looking at how do we differentiate ourselves, especially when we were opening, which was at the very beginning of the pandemic, we knew that people were looking at their lives again and the values that they had. And so we knew if we want to set ourselves apart, we have to tell a story in a really meaningful way. And the values that we picked, we knew would allow us to at least present something new to the community. And it did. People really responded because as we continued to tell our story to people who didn't know us, they really connected with us and they really appreciated that they could come in and get something that had a value. It was an intentional purchase. And so they left with a story.
That's a good point. What's a personal habit that contributes to your success every day? Like last person we talked to, they learned to get up early every day so that they can knock out some things for them before knocking things out for the business.
This may sound a little silly. There's actually 2 things. The first one may sound a little silly because it may sound like, well, yeah, that just totally makes sense, is we have consistent hours. There are a lot of businesses that have really inconsistent hours, and we've heard, even from our own patrons, that they appreciate that they know we are open from 10 to 5, Tuesday through Sunday. And there are other businesses that they visit that there could just be a sign on the door saying we're closed today, or they just change their hours and they just put it on their window. And so you've made an effort to go to that business and they're not open. As a small business, you absolutely cannot afford to do that. People need to know when you're going to be there. And so that was a habit we established very quickly. Again, it may sound silly, but as the owner, I can come and go as I please. I own the place, but you can't think like that. You have to be the servant shop owner because you're there for your patrons. And the other thing is that even though we're open until 5, we're never closed. And so if someone comes in, I have actually been locking the door, had the key in the door to lock it. And someone's walked up and said, oh, gosh, is there any way I can come in? Absolutely. Let's turn the lights back on. Let's turn the music back on. How can I help you? We're never, ever closed. And those are the things that may sound normal, but they mean so much to people. And it goes a long, long way.
I found leaving Disney, there's a lot of things we did there that was normal. That's not normal.
No, it is not
here.
Normal.
Like follow up, even just thank you, please, consistent hours. And then like, oh, let's open. Like yours is opening, someone's coming in. Another normal business would have just closed and said, oh, I'm sorry, we're closed. Please come back tomorrow. No, it'll take 10 minutes out of your day for that person to get it, and they're never going to forget it.
Yep.
And they're going to talk about it, right?
Yep.
And it's just one little moment that they're probably going to, it's probably going to make their day, and they're probably going to be able to find that one thing they were looking for someone special. And we don't know how special that's going to be to them, right? We don't know the story behind it. It's that important.
There are small businesses I know too that their window says open, their doors are locked. You have to ring the bell and then they'll come and let you in.
No.
What? Who? What?
Remember the office I was in? When you came to do the podcast?
Yeah.
I stepped in as general manager for a little bit because their manager owner went on maternity leave. And that's something I did, was make sure that the doors are always open at 9. At 8:59, doors are open.
Yes.
And after I stepped out and a new owner came in, it'd be 9:15 and the doors are locked. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, it's not a big deal. I was like, no, it's that number, that time on the door is a commitment and a contract to people.
Absolutely.
And if you say you're going to be open at 9, you better be open at 9.
Absolutely.
But it's those little things, right?
It's the little things.
They ended up locking the doors too. So the only way to go inside is to knock or call someone to let you down. You got to go over there, open the door. They got to wait outside in the heat or in the rain or
the rain.
I hate when people prioritize the operation versus the experience.
Absolutely.
And that's what happened.
Absolutely.
How important is experience, do you think, to a store, to a customer's journey?
Oh my gosh. Experience is everything. That's one of the other things that Disney really taught me, was that aside from being a storyteller, your patron has to have an experience. They have to feel like they're wanted. They have to feel like you are at their beck and call. Your patron needs to feel like they've got breathing room to shop without being bothered, but available, right? That's a very delicate balance. And so I know for fact, because I ask, and we have enough regulars now, we have a lot of people who come back and see us, and they tell me consistently they come back because of the experience. And they may not always buy anything, which is fine, but they come back and they'll say, I just love being in your space. I leave feeling refreshed. I love being in here because you're so friendly and you're so kind. Or I know I can just spend time in here and just look around and leave the office behind, or I can leave the kids behind, or I can just be in your space. And that takes us beyond being a retailer. That brings us into a whole different realm of why people come and see us. It's because they know they're going to get an experience here. And I wasn't prepared for that. I was opening up a retail store, but when you start to understand how you impact other people just by your greeting, by your availability, by how you hand them the bag, how you put things in the bag, how you validate their purchase, all those little things, and you don't have to be overly over the top on it. It's just a conversation. And those are the things people will remember. And let me tell you, they remember because they come back over and over and over again.
It's a good one. Right. You see that first shelf right here?
Yep.
The tube. Can you replace it? Yeah. Good?
Mm-hmm.
How many questions? Boring? Good?
No, they're great.
Okay, good. I want you to think of a personal habit. There has to be something that you do personally, even if it's write everything down or write little notes for yourself. From Disney, I would send myself emails and that was like, I can't forget to do this. Because I remember I always check my email before I leave and before I go to bed. So if I schedule a little email for 8 p.m. tonight, I'm like, I got to do that before I go to bed. Or, I got to text that person. I got to call that person. Those little things. Like the other guy said, he started waking up early just so he can give himself time. And that was really the message. It wasn't that he got up early. It was that he was giving himself time to be himself,
right,
and enjoy, because he was getting burnt out.
One habit that is non-negotiable for me is my meditation. Every morning, I meditate, and that really helps ground me for the day. It reminds me of why I do what I'm doing. It allows me to take all of I call it, and you may have to edit this, I call it the shitty committee, all the voices up there that tell you why you shouldn't own a business. Or, you had a bad day the other day, oh, do you need to close the doors? Or did you buy the right product? Oh my gosh. Or, the litany of things, right? Meditation helps calm that. It helps you keep your perspective on why you do what you do. So for me, every morning, taking those deep breaths, taking that 30 minutes to reaffirm why I do what I do, why I'm great at what I do, why we're doing what we do, and why we do it so well. And when you can start your day like that, if you have those moments during the day, which we all have, you don't stay there long because you've sort of planted the seed in the morning and you've allowed it to grow. And it just allows me to have a much more centered day, a much more present day. It allows me to make sure that when our patrons come through the door, that, yes, I am now reminded of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I have those great conversations. Our business is doing well. So that meditation really helps me stay grounded.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to skip ahead. You were a leader of leaders at Disney, and you opened up a shop in 2020, right before COVID hit. You survived that, and you went from a smaller location to this much beautiful, bigger location. Some people might look at you and say, man, Jeff's got it figured out. Would you agree or disagree?
When you look at the timing of when we opened our business, and if anyone were to say, oh, they opened at the beginning of the pandemic and they expanded during the pandemic, he must be, brilliant at what he does. That's absolutely false. That is not true at all. The timing of when we opened up our small business in the grand scheme of things couldn't have been worse. We had no idea a pandemic was coming, but the bus had left the station. We'd signed a lease. Product had been ordered. We were renovating that space. And then, here's COVID. So we had a ready to open store that sat there unopened for 10 weeks. Our grand opening day was the day the city shut down. That could have kicked anyone's feet out from underneath them at any moment. And when you look at the practices that Matt and I do, the faith we have, the meditation practices, the way we live our lives, we knew that, yes, that's very scary. There is no doubt that it was not on our minds. But we also knew that in every aspect, we were always guided. I mean, from the life event that took me out of Disney to how I opened up this store, that was a major life event. And then here we are opening up a store at the very beginning of a pandemic. Nobody needs a gift shop at the beginning of a pandemic, but it was there. And, and then we're there for 3 months and know immediately this is not the right space for us. We've got to go. We've got to have a bigger store. 3 months into the pandemic, those are all things that happened very, very quickly. We didn't have time to focus on fear. We just didn't. And that may sound unrealistic. There was a lot of thoughtful, meaningful conversations that happened about what are our next steps and how can we be guided. And that's why meditation helps you stay present, and it helps you focus on, okay, yes, I'm having this bit of nervousness in my stomach, but I know I need to move forward. And what's the next decision we're going to make? Because we know we are divinely guided. We know we are supported. We know that the support is there. And those are the things that get you through from leaving Disney to now getting into a bigger space. There's a lot in that story right there. But when you ask, what we had figured out was that we knew we couldn't fail. We knew in our hearts. And it was that belief that kept us going, because we knew. And even if, when you look at what is failure, right? If we had to close these doors, okay, what's the next thing, right? I mean, we're not going to sit and and stew on this. A lot of people do. And that's fine. I mean, if that's how people want to handle it, but that was not for us. So we knew we couldn't fail no matter what we were doing because we had each other.
We talked about this a little bit earlier, but going from your first location to your second location, you closed the first one, opened the second one to get bigger in a more prime location. You didn't really necessarily need it. It wasn't like your demand was over your supply.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
It was more of a want. Were you scared? You're like, oh, am I making the right decision? I don't need this, but I want it.
Absolutely. So when we left our first location, which we had spent a tremendous amount of money and time to retrofit that 250 square feet into the shop that we opened, I knew probably within the first month that it wasn't the right space based on our traffic flow, based on getting to be there 7-8 hours a day and getting to see the aesthetics of where we were, who's coming, who's going, who's the clientele that's visiting us down here. I knew that it wasn't our vibe. The one piece of advice I always used to give my leaders at Disney, when all else failed about decisions that need to be made, I said, follow your gut. Your gut will tell you literally 100% of the direction you need to go because it's all right there. The answers are right there. And so I knew in my gut that this was not the right space for us. And that because of our faith, I knew we're going to be guided to the right place. We just will be. So I can stop worrying about it. And so month 2, in one day, I had 3 people come in to our little shop and tell me about a space that was available on this side of Ivanhoe Village, where we are today. 3 different people came in and said, hey, are you aware that there's a space down the street that's much bigger? You should go take a look at it. It just became available. And we hadn't done the business. We still didn't know who we were. We just didn't. It had been 2 months. And even Matt said, Jeff, it's only been 2 months. We've already put a lot of money and effort into this little store. Oh, and by the way, we're in the middle of the pandemic. We came down that night. We looked at this little shop, and the sun was setting on Lake Ivanhoe because obviously our store sits on the lake. I compare it to going to the dog pound and putting a puppy in your arms. You're going to go home with the puppy. You just will. And so we looked in the windows here, saw the space. We knew that this was the aesthetic of where we wanted our folks. We knew this was the clientele that we wanted to support our business. The sun was setting on the lake, and I said we should at least call. Well, the rent was 3 times what we were paying down the street. We knew that there was work that needs to be done in here as well. And so when you talk about putting everything, all of the faith that you have out there, this was it. Because we didn't have any financial records of like, oh, we should pull this trigger because we can financially, or we should pull this trigger because we know who our customer is, and we have the client base and people know who we are. We had none of that. We had none of it. We did. How could you? It was only 8 weeks we'd been open, but we pulled the trigger, and here we are, year 4.
Has it been that long?
Can you believe it?
Wow, I don't.
I know.
Time flies.
Well, we're going on year 4. We're about 3 months away from year 4.
Mm-hmm. I remember I walked in and I was like, I saw on social media, I was like, just got a store?
Mm-hmm.
He's got the cockerels coming?
Yeah.
I gotta go.
I know.
I was like, I gotta go. What's one thing, and I think you already said it, or aspect that like you believe leads directly to success in business in general? Like for me, it's consistency. If you can consistently, routinely deliver a good product or a good service, you'll be fine.
You've got to listen to your shopper. And so often, because now we have enough of a client base that comes back on a regular basis, I ask them, what are you looking for? Or what would you like to see? Or what's something that you wish we carried? And those are the questions, because I feel comfortable asking that of them. They will share all kinds of information. And do I take action on all of it? No. But does it plant the seed for, oh, you know what? I really should consider that. Or, gosh, I would have never gone down that road. That's something I really should consider. Because again, when my leaders would come and talk to me about operational inefficiencies at Disney, I would say, go talk to the frontline cast. They will tell you everything you need to know because they're the ones living it every single day. As a leader, you're not expected to know everything. Go talk to the people who have the answers, and that's your frontline cast. So for me here in this small business, it's my shopper. Now, I have my own instinctual gut things of things that I know are trending or things that I want to carry. But when it comes down to how do I keep things fresh and exciting and relevant in this store, talking to my shoppers. And when they come back and they see I've taken action on something that they've suggested, that's pretty exciting for them.
How important is putting yourself out there, like exposure and marketing for your business? And what's more important, like getting reviews or putting out pictures of your stuff, putting out videos of your stuff? How important is it for your business?
Right. Hang on a second. These lights.
Sorry.
I know. Even during the day, I have to go to the back because these lights start to...
Can you swap them out for a different tube?
When we first moved in here, that was one of the things I said had to go. Well, it's now been how long? I have found that it's really important to put yourself out there as a business owner, despite, me not wanting my face plastered all over our social media. It is so incredibly important because as a small business owner, people don't always know who you are. And that's a way for them to connect a face to the brand. And so I have found that my social media posts with Matt or I in them do exponentially better than if I just do something about a product. And I also make sure that when we are approached by the community paper or by BrandCrumbs or by Biggie or a realtor who just did a video on us or anything where people are wanting to hear your story or talk about your business, don't ever turn that down because it is the most valuable piece of marketing you could ask for. It's important. People want to connect with you, the person behind the magic.
Tell me a story where one day it felt like it was all crashing down. You were a failure. The business was a failure. And then what happened next?
So like I mentioned earlier, it's not all dreamy, great days, rainbows and sunshine. The month of August is like you've just got to get through it. It's hot. People are on vacation. Your business will be much, much slower. And so it's very easy during those times to get in your head and think, oh my God, we've only done a little bit of money and, did I buy the right things? That's when this committee up here in your head can take full advantage of all your weaknesses and convince you that you've made the wrong decision. And so our first August that we were open, I thought, and it was the month before we moved into this spot. So it was we'd only been open 8 weeks, and the last 4 weeks of that was August. And I thought, oh my God, we've made, I bought all the wrong things. Nobody's coming in. What have I done? I thought I was, this expert in my field. Oh my gosh. And the next thing I know, we're expanding and doing all the things. Even when you fail, you've won, because what you have to do is you have to take what you think didn't work and make that work to your advantage. Either you enhance in a different direction, so you now have a very valuable data point. That didn't work, or at least it didn't work in this moment. Remember it, use it to your advantage. Like I did, I was sitting on product that wasn't moving because we didn't have product or we didn't have traffic. And I could have very easily fallen into that headspace, which I did for a little while. But I reminded myself, number one, we are guided. We are not going to fail. And I took that opportunity to sort of humble myself because, leaving a very long career with Disney and merchandise operations, I had to go into this business like a bull in a china closet. Like, I'm going. And I did go. And because there was so much at stake, I couldn't move slowly. And so I know I made decisions on product that I made emotionally, not practically. I know we spent money on things that now I think, oh my God, why did I do that? Because I was running at a pace where earlier we talked about fear. That probably would have been the fear piece of I didn't give myself enough time to really think about what I was doing. And I spent money and I bought product that we did not need because I wasn't going slow enough. And so I learned in those first 8 weeks to be much more methodical in what I'm doing, to slow down. That's where the meditation came in, to just slow down. But our first year, the first year we were open, we donated probably $10,000 at cost to Out of the Closet. We just gave them product because it wasn't moving and it wasn't the right product. That alone could send a business out of business. But we were very fortunate. And so when you think about, oops, I didn't dwell on that. We moved forward. I mean, that's gone. It's gone. It's not coming back. I now know better to take my time, do what I know is right in my heart, and not run on anxiousness, and allow myself to be open to other people too. That was the other thing, is that I knew so much was weighing on me and I knew because of my experience, I was carrying 90% of the responsibility. I didn't allow others to help. And that was a big, big, big mistake. Big mistake. You've got to allow people to help you. Even though you may be the resident expert in the field, allow yourself to be open to other advice, other thoughts, because you're so in the woods that you're not seeing what's happening on the periphery, and those people are, and they're there to help you. So that was something that I did not do well when we first opened. I took it all on, and that was not a good decision.
Solid. Besides meditation, how do you stay motivated and to keep going through the roller coaster of entrepreneurship?
So I keep going in this craziness because it was something that I'd always wanted to do. I had meditated, journaled, I'd done all kinds of things. This store was in the wings for many, many, many years. And when it finally presented itself, and I was given this gift, I knew that I had just been delivered what I'd been asking for. And even though I work pretty much 7 days a week, I get up every single morning thrilled that I get to come here. I get to live in this space that I've created. I get to be surrounded by all of this incredible product, by all these incredible people who come and shop with us, this incredible community. This is what motivates me. Because when you think about the people who leave the corporate jobs, like the corporate lawyer who left and now he's a trail guide in the Grand Canyon, or the corporate doctor or whatever, she's now opening up a cupcake shop in New York City. Those are the people who left the machine, the grind, to do what they love. I'm now in that arena, and I left the machine, and I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. And will this store morph into something else and become something even more? Yeah, sure, probably. Who knows? I don't know. But I know I love being here, and that translates into the energy that people feel when they come in, is that I want to be here. I want to see them. So that's what keeps me going, is that I'm living my dream.
What do you call when you just need a vent or bounce an idea off of or talk you down a cliff?
Yeah. So when I'm presented with something that I'm in uncharted territory, or I need advice, or I need a clearer head. We've got a group of small business owners that we all talk, and there's about 9 of us, and we're on this little thread on Instagram, and we'll send questions out, or someone's having a day, they'll put it out there, and we all are there to rally around that person. And so when there are those moments of like, I want to start banging my head against the wall, I get on that group chat with these folks and throw it out, and it's really funny because people will share a meme, or they'll validate, or they'll say, hey, or there's advice, right? And you are surprised that while you think that might be a unique problem to you, it's not. It's not. Someone's already had it and they've solved it. Or people are like, oh, well, I would do this or I would do that. And you've got your resident experts out there who are offering you really good sage advice to help you kind of rethink whatever it is that's happening. And I guess I would call that my tribe, my little community tribe that,
Who's in it?
We've got Yay, Good Crowd, Lafayette and Rushford, Paper Goat Post, Frank, Shop Frank in Winter Park. Yeah. But I've also got partners like Air Home, and our Main Street director, Alex Englet, she comes in and, and I'll vent to her because, she's got, all of Ivanhoe Village. And so when I think about if I'm ever frustrated with parking or whatever, things like that, I can vent to her, and, she can help, give me a different perspective or update me on what's happening with the city, on any projects that are happening relating to that. Or so, yeah, you've got to have know who you can go to. But the other piece is that when I do get into that headspace, I can't stay there long. I don't want to stay there long. Let's get it resolved. Let's get it fixed and move on, because a lot of people stay there, and then that becomes an even bigger issue, or it morphs into something completely different. And then now you're down a rabbit hole of just, it's not productive. For me, it's not productive.
I call it the rain cloud. Like, it's going to rain every once in a while, but don't let it flood. Don't let it pile up,
Yeah. It's like one of those, when people say, you're crying about one thing, and then the next thing you know, you start crying about 10 other things that were happening a long time. You just you use it as the excuse to I'm really going to get it all out, and then you end up depressed or no.
I think it's a skill in its own.
Yeah. No,
just being able to straighten yourself back out, get back out there.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Who out there do you see and you're like, damn, that person's got it figured out, and you admire?
There's a couple shops I follow on Instagram, and they're my motivation for display product growth. It's Annie's Bluebell in Brooklyn and Occasionette, and they're in Pennsylvania, I believe. And I follow these two places, and I watch what they post, and I like their aesthetic. I like their values. I like everything about them. And so when I think about what's the next step for Maffrey's aesthetically, product-wise, all of it, I look to them. I don't engage with them. I'm not messaging the owner and getting a conversation started, but I'm sitting on the sideline sort of watching. And those are probably two people that really help me make decisions.
Who out here local do you think we should get with next and ask these questions that you would like to hear the answers to?
I would say a Good Crowd. Sarah, a Good Crowd. She's got such a great story. She opened the year before we did. And she has I think, a similar but very different story. I mean, it's a Good Crowd, and she supports local makers, and she does a lot of pop-ups, and she does a lot of really great things though in College Park. And so I think she would offer another perspective on what it means to own a small business and building it from the ground up. and she's got, 2 kids and a family. I mean, that's a whole element that Matt and I never have to worry about, and that's that. I think about the amount of work I put in, and you add a family. Oh my God, that's a whole different respect level of how do you do this? You talk about fear. That's when you'll see fear in me, because that would scare me.
How much would you attribute your success to this day? How much would you attribute it to hard work? And would you attribute it to hard work, or would you attribute it to being lucky?
If people were to ask me, about how I opened this business and the hard work and the luck, my answer would probably be a little bit more controversial, because I think a lot of people would say, no, he's got it all wrong. This may sound like I'm speaking out of both sides of my face, but I truly, hopefully I can describe this in a way that it doesn't sound like that. I know there are a lot of motivational speakers out there who are like, you've got to pound the pavement, you've got to put the work in, you've got to, and it's more fear-based for me about grind. You've got to, push. That would unmotivate me. When I think about, have I ever worked harder in my life than here? No. This has been the longest and hardest I've ever worked in my life. But when you are doing it for all the right reasons, the hard work does not feel like hard work, because you're doing what you love to do. And so you're happy to do it. It doesn't feel like I've got to put the hours in. I've got to climb the ladder. I've got to push this person down to get, no. You hear a lot of that out there. And I think that's completely wrong, in my opinion. And people say, oh, well, you got lucky. And I say, no, here's where I think, if you want to use the word lucky, is that I was lucky enough to plant seeds years ago in places that grew. When you think about Dan Cockrell, I planted that seed a long time ago because I was a good leader for him. And down the road, he ended up wanting to do a book signing with me. That wasn't luck. That was a seed I planted a long time ago, and I nurtured it. When you think about the seeds I planted during my meditation on all of my dream, those just came to fruition because I believed I could do it. So if someone thinks that they've got to fall into a windfall of cash, that they've got to, put in 1 million hours, and they've got to do all these really uncomfortable things to get to where I'm at, that is not true. It's not true. You have to have a dream. You have to believe it can happen. You've got to have faith in yourself. You've got to surround yourself with people who can support you. And I promise you, those serendipitous moments of people coming out of the woodwork to help you will happen. Period. It will happen. So that's what happened to me.
Coming from Disney, I've talked to many alumni, and not many started their own business, and even fewer kept it, because I found that Disney does a really good job at teaching us how to be people leaders and how to treat people right, how to delegate, and how to accomplish things through people and take care of our guests, right, and our customer. They don't do a very fantastic job of teaching you how to run a business, because they have the foundation and structure set up, right? Starting your own business, we don't have structure, foundation, or people to delegate to. Did you find that hard to transition in the beginning? Because you didn't have anyone to delegate to. You had to work. You were only staff, and you were the owner. You were admin. You were finance. You were accounting. You were hiring. You were everything, right? Ordering, inventory, scheduling. You were everything. We had all that at Disney. Did you find that difficult to transition? You were a little different because you were a leader of leaders, so you saw the numbers, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't really have to worry about profit margin. You just had to make sure that the cast took care of the guests and the leaders took care of the cast.
Correct. One of the most satisfying things that I got to do when I opened up this business was that on my business cards, it says proprietor of Maffrey's Good Goods was me. My position title at Disney was proprietor. I say this with all the love in my heart, because there's so many great leader of leaders who have the title of proprietor. This, what I'm doing today, is a proprietor. The position title called proprietor at Disney is not a proprietor, because proprietors, like own the business from stem to stern. Literally, I am the chief buyer, product developer. I am the chief bathroom cleaner. I am the chief trash taker outer. I sweep, I dust, I do literally everything in this store. And what Disney doesn't prepare you for is, if you were to leave, you've got departments for literally everything. An operational leader is really to make sure that the lights are on, things are safe, you've got people to man the registers, and the service is happening. That's it. Lines are being managed. That's it. You're not deciding what product to carry. You're not deciding, what your budget's going to be. You're not deciding any of that. I am. And so when you think about people who leave Disney to decide to open up a business, unless you were a leader of leaders and really had exposure to finance and to main gate, with Disney and the buying teams and the product development teams, and really kind of got some knowledge in that, you could probably struggle if you tried to open up a business like this. But I was fortunate, because when I wasn't with Disney, I was a buyer and product developer for Anheuser-Busch, and I got to do many different things with Disney. So I had a lot of tools in my bag that really helped set me up for success. And I'm very aware of that. I was very blessed that I had exposure to all of that, because that really helps me drive this business much more efficiently. But being a proprietor of a small business is truly the definition of proprietor. It's not what Disney calls it.
Fair enough. So I want to end it with two things. I told two people that I was coming to do this with you, and Pedro said, he's like, I only worked with him for 12 to 16 weeks, but I will never forget seeing him and his leadership on the opening day of Co-op. I remember him being dressed to the nines with a bow tie and just all his staple leadership exuberance, and he was so vibrant and engaged and inspiring. He was always a servant leadership, and I always want to be like him, even to this day.
Oh, that's sweet.
Especially the well-dressed part. Yeah.
Well, he dresses to the nines.
He got it from me.
Oh, did he? Okay, you taught him how to dress to the nines.
I taught him how to always wear a tie.
Yes. I remember the club, you and Mike, you guys had some sort of dapper club or something.
Yeah.
Ties and the...
Only ties.
Oh, my God. Two guys.
Ties and long sleeves every day.
Yes.
Yeah, it was hot.
Yes.
And then Mike said, Jeff was very involved in the concept delivery and the opening of Co-op. The location represented a significant departure from anything that ever existed previously at the property and was immediately successful. I'm not sure that anyone else could have pulled it off as successfully and as smoothly as Jeff did, and it took his vision and determination to make it happen. I just wanted to share that with you.
Oh, thank you.
And that's all I got. Thank you.
That's really, really kind.
Yeah. You still, to this day, left a legacy on these people.
And Disney, I tell you what, this would not be here without Disney. This wouldn't be. They taught me everything I knew.
How important is theming, do you think?
Oh, it's incredibly important, Is
it theming, or is it a story? Is it an experience? I think it's experience.
So that's when I taught at DU, people would ask, young leaders would ask about, people would want to move stuff around. Oh, I'm gonna move this over here with no visual set stuff, or I'm gonna rejudge things, or I'm gonna move this fixture over here. And one of the things that I always used to tell people was that things are set and displayed the way they are supposed to be for a very special reason. And when you come in and arbitrarily move things around, you have disrupted a very delicate ecosystem that you may not be aware of, because the guests, when they come in, and I just had, we're building 30 corporate boxes for this company downtown. And the guy came in with his wife on Saturday, and they had just gone to Magic Kingdom, and he was talking about the ride dumps. It's like, they have like a 3-year-old. He's like, oh my God, the barrels of plush right outside, where you step outside. And so we were talking about this, basically this ecosystem. And I would tell people, or the young leaders, I said, things are the way they are because our guests, when they enter a shop, they're not saying, oh, I love the barrels of plush there, or I love these t-shirts on the wall. What they're coming into is a very intentional flow and lifestyle. We are leading them through a merchandise experience, through the theming, the layout, the lifestyle, whatever it is. And they're not picking up on the things that we are doing intentionally. What they're leaving with is, what a cool store. What a fun experience. I really loved that. They're just talking about the experience. They're not putting the pieces together of why things, because they don't need to. It's this full immersive story. And so that's what I try to do here, is a flow, a lifestyle, sort of this experience, so that when you leave, you're like, I want to do another lap. I don't know why. Well, I know why, because I know what I've done intentionally to do that. So theming is everything. We went into, are we done? I can stand up.
No, don't stand up.
Oh, okay. We were in the Hallmark store in Colonial Plaza yesterday. It used to be a Hallmark store. Now it's a paper source store with a Hallmark name on it. There was so much product in this store jammed in like the vendor sent them in their cardboard boxes that you pop up or whatever. And it was so chaotic and I couldn't tell you if they had great product or not. I mean, I saw some things that I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. But I was so distracted by what they had done in there that I had to leave, because that was my experience, was I can't even look in here. And I'm not sure if I feel good. Like, could I find this at the 7-Eleven? Because that feels like the container the 7-Eleven would put on their counter. This is a Hallmark store. But there were like 9 of those containers on this fixture. And you're like,
It's not Costco.
is this crap? And you know what? I might carry the exact same thing that I've bought as a little filler, but I've taken it out of the product. I've put it in a little dish. It's a whole different story now, right? And it's one thing, right? And so when I look at, when you ask, how important is theming, I have a particular vision in my head of what Hallmark is. It's like cards and wrapping paper and like emotion, because you're going in to get a card or a special gift or their Hallmark ornaments, like, right? I think about those things. It was just a mess. And so I feel bad that this brand opted to really muddy the waters, because you could tell I felt confused. I felt like I don't know where to go. I don't know what to look at. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And you could tell there was the energy in there like that. And so I always want to make sure that when I'm doing things, and when Ron James used to help me do this store, we would stand back and look, and when we were all done, and we would get that sense of, is this too much? Do we need to take a couple things off the floor and use those as backfill when something else sells, or, and we would do that exercise, because in a space like this, it can get overwhelming very quickly. Holidays are a different story. It's a pilot high, watch it fly sort of situation. So people do expect it to be a little bit fuller than normal, but that was a good example of theming and how important theming is.
I think it goes back to the people forget what you said, but they remember how you make them feel.
Absolutely.
It's like that people forget what they had or came for or what they bought, but if it was a good experience, like it's hard for me to go to places with bad parking.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a good experience, that part.
Yeah. They had, I have these little signs, these little wooden signs that have these little sayings on it. They had an entire wall that was probably as big as this wall fixture right here. And they're all black and they're all little and they had white writing on them. And some of them were inspirational, but some of them were funny. It was top to bottom and they were all side by side. I thought I was going to have a seizure looking at this wall because you couldn't read any of them because they were literally back to back to back, and it was an entire wall. It looked like is this a story I should be reading left to right?
How well? Last thing, can you give me a hi, I'm Jeff, and just stay looking at the camera.
Hi, I'm Jeff.
Perfect. All right, that's it. You can stand now. Easy peasy, right?
Yeah,
Thanks for listening to the Start From Scratch audio experience. Don't forget to check out the video version on the BrandCrumbs YouTube channel, where you can experience the story in its originally intended format. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we'll bring you more inspiring stories of resilience.